Hello, everyone. It's Chris Kugelhahn here, and first of all, I want to thank everyone for taking the time out of their day to uh, join us here. Hopefully, everyone can hear me. We do have a couple people that you know say they're not hearing anything. Hopefully, you can hear it now. But anyway, We're gonna get started. We have about 170 people that decided to join us today. Um, Currently, we have 120 online, so there are going to be some people straggling in. But what I wanted to do today is kind of go over what we've learned from IMS 2.0 since the rollout and share with you some of the data that we've been able to gather. And in doing this preparation of this presentation, I started to think, um, you know, asking the question, why are we doing what we do? What's our long-term plan for our career? And a few things came to mind. Maybe I want to continue working internet leads and hauling around buyers for the rest of my life. That may be a plan. Uh, or you're socking about 25% of every commission away so you can retire when you're 65. You might be doing real estate as a hobby or kind of a part-time gig. Or you might have a rich spouse that will take care of you later on. Or you might be planning on walking to the mailbox like my grandpa told me that's what he wanted to do, and get a social security check every month. Some people may not believe that that's going to be around when we get to that age. I have another option. We've talked about this option since day one of starting EasyStreet and Highgarden. It was our belief that we could help agents grow their business sooner than what they could in any other business model. I think Chip out in Las Vegas has mentioned some numbers before of where you need to get your business in order to have it be self-sustaining. And I think that number was around 100 past clients. Once you get to 100 past clients, you might be able to, tell your manager to shove the internet leads and ask for a higher split. Hire a showing agent at a 50% split to help with all your referral buyers. Maybe you can get to 150 past clients. Hire some more team members and get to 200 past clients and keep growing your team until you have, 250 past clients. At that point, you probably have developed your business to a point where you could retire and live off the difference of your split and the agents on your team. So that's just another option. And what I can say is if you're committed to this business, we can help you reach these goals faster. One of my personal goals is not to wait in the mail each month. So let's pretend for the next 30 minutes that our goals are the same. How are we going to reach these goals or this particular goal? This may seem cliche or whatever, but I think there's a few different points that we could focus on today. Efficiency and effectiveness. We developed IMS 2.0 so that you guys had a starting point. That you weren't combing through 2,000 leads in your database to find the ones that needed to be called. We organize them into nice lists. Commitment. We need a commitment that we want to set more meetings, that we set more time aside to prospect. And integrity. We want to set our reminders, use the IMS with integrity. A lot of times we see some things in the IMS that just don't make sense. For example, where we have a not contacted lead that we've never spoken to and the agent has a reminder set in place to call them 38 days from now. That reminder doesn't have integrity and a purpose. We want to add value with all of our clients. We want to build a relationship. We'd like to check in every 30 days. We're going to talk a lot about that. Setting meetings and, do everything with a purpose, so that you have a sustainable business, 10 years down the road. The hot list, it's been the topic of discussion probably for the last few months or since we've rolled out. IMS 2.0. The other day I was talking to a manager, and they told me that they just got done talking to an agent that made a whole hour of calls, but didn't talk to a single person. You're probably doubting that this list works at that point. During that hour, there were 13 call attempts made. And here's some things that we know for sure. That this is going to happen. That you have to get comfortable with this. It's not just an hour. It's an ongoing dedication and commitment to working this program. So it's not just 1 hour of work. Some things we're going to talk about later in this presentation is that our data shows that if this person keeps making 13 calls each day for the next 7 days, she would probably set 3 face-to-face meetings with new buyers or sellers. One question that comes to my mind is, why only 13 call attempts in 60 minutes, especially when we didn't talk to anyone. We found this in, when we made this presentation across the country, what we see happening is a lot of times people will pull up the hot list and analyze every single lead, looking at every single notes for the last year, looking at every single property that this person's looked at on our site, completely trying to get prepared in case this person answers the phone. I've talked to enough agents, and Scott Reed, who has joined me today, I think he may comment on this, but we have to trust that this list works, and basically we just need to click the call button, because sometimes we think we know what's going on with the lead, but we really don't. So it's really we can click that call button and get prepared while the phone's ringing for that call. Steve Robbins has said this in every single meeting we've had. Rarely you should trust your opinion or what you believe is going on with the lead. They may have told you that they're buying a year from now, but they're back on our website saving favorites, doing everything else. Something's probably changed, and we need to check in with those leads. Work the prospecting lists. And the key word here is lists. We have put a major focus on the hot list when we first rolled this out, and even up until a couple weeks ago. But we made a ton of progress with agents, working that hot list. We have to work all of these lists. They're all important. Something we often hear from some agents, especially when they're just starting out using the IMS 2.0 and they open their hot list for the first or second time, these leads aren't hot. Often we think we know what's going on with the lead, but many times we don't. If we haven't heard it a dozen times, we've heard it at least 100 times, where an agent will make a call to someone that we're standing over their shoulder saying, just click the call button, just call them. And they're saying, no, I know what's going on with this lead. They're not buying for another 2 or 3 years. This is a waste. You want me to waste my time? And we'll be like, yeah, let's just try it. And what we come to find out that these people are flying in town next weekend and going to buy a house. Something that we get copied, Steve Bryan and I and your managers get copied on all the replies via email to Suggest and Gateway. And I want to show you a few that they pop out to me. This took me about 30 seconds of searching my inbox for keywords already bought. Everybody's probably received one of these emails, a reply from a Gateway or Suggest, where the client said, yep, I already bought. This is why the hot list is there. We have to stop letting these people slip through the cracks. Pick up the phone when they show up on the hot list and make the calls and get in contact. This is just 5 examples. I probably have 500 in my inbox. This one I just received this morning. I was driving in and I got this. I knew this was going to be part of the presentation, so I wanted to do a little research on it. Got this email from a client, one of our agents, says, "We found a home." And I thought, okay, I just want to take a look at this lead. So I logged in as this agent or into our system, pulled up the lead, and here's what I found. In the notes, you can see it's from July 15th of 2016, a few months ago, about 6 months ago. The wife answered. She was pretty rude and didn't want to talk. Said they were just looking and to call back another time. If you click over on the right-hand side, you can open this up and see that this person, as recently as 20 days ago, this was as of today, was back on our site. They're also looking at Gateway and Suggest 20 days ago. It looks like it came in July 14th. The agent did speak to them on the 15th, but there hasn't been any other communication with this person. If that lead was back on our website 20 days ago, viewing Gateway and Suggest, looking at properties, it would have been on the hot list 20 days ago. If you click the little button underneath the name on the lead, you can pull up the contact history, and you'll see that we have never made another phone attempt to get in touch with this lead. We've never sent them a text or an email since July. But they were back on our hot list 20 days ago. We found a home. This is obvious, but I wonder what home they found. We pull up and look at the ones they looked at on our site 20 days ago. They looked at this particular house in Surprise 3 times. So I guess my point is that the hot list does work, and unfortunately it looks like this one was another one that slipped through the cracks. It was there. We just didn't make the effort to get a hold of it in time, and now they found a house. As I said, we've been putting a lot of effort on the hot list in the last few weeks, or last couple months. But we can't let our effort wane after we work through the hot list. We made some changes to what the definition of worked is, because a lot of agents, we took their feedback and they were right. You can't expect me to call this lead every single day for the next 20 days just because they're on my hot list. I called them, left them a voicemail, sent them a text. I need to move on. So we defined working as the following. On a previously contacted lead, somebody that you've talked to or you've contacted in the past, and it shows up on your hot list, all you have to do is make one call attempt. You don't even have to contact them, just one call attempt or a text, and it gets removed from your hot list for 30 days. If it's someone that you've never spoken to, it's a not contacted lead, you've never talked to them, you've made no contact or recorded a contact in the system, we just ask that you make one call attempt to that hot list lead, and it gets removed or comes off your list for 15 days. So pretty soon when you wake up, your hot list doesn't look like 117 leads every day because you worked most of those yesterday. You wake up and you see that your hot leads are down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 10 new ones that became hot today. Like I said, we can't let our effort wane once we get that hot list worked down. Because what happens most of the time are these leads, they go from the hot list to your reminder list. We made an attempt on these leads, didn't get a hold of them, so we automatically schedule something, another follow-up or another reminder for you to try them again. Working the hot list is just the beginning. Let me show you exactly how this, the definition of working the hot list and how your hot list goes down from 117 to 1. You make a call, and the lead comes off your hot list. Let's say you didn't get in touch with that lead and you record it as a voicemail. Those leads get added to your reminder list. Once again, the hot list is just the beginning. Now you're working through your reminder list. You have a morning call, you make the call. Once again, you click voicemail or didn't answer. That gets added to your afternoon reminders. Now, you do have the ability to change that. Let's say you called this lead, you left them a voicemail, you sent them a text, and maybe even sent them an email. You don't want to call them again this afternoon. We would hope you would, but if you don't, schedule it out for tomorrow. But don't let this lead fall through the cracks just because we didn't speak to them, and schedule it out for 46 days into the future. I can call my hot leads, at least 80% of them every 3 to 10 days. I don't know, a few weeks ago we came out with a new report that showed your hot leads worked, and a lot of people didn't look very good on that report. And what we learned, or what we realized, was that you can't work your hot leads every single day. You need a break. You have to take time off. You might be out in the field on running appointments, which that's hopefully what you're doing. But it's unreasonable for us to think that you're going to work 80% or 100% of every hot lead every single day. So we changed that report and basically said, okay, over a 10-day period or a 7 to 10-day period, how many leads were on your list and how many got worked? You might have taken 7 days or 6 days off and didn't work a single lead, but on the 7th day you showed up for work and worked all 117. That would score you at 100% of your hot leads worked. We believe that that's more reasonable. And let me show you what some of the people are doing right now. Last week, we had 74 agents that worked 100% of their hot list. Martin Edge in Las Vegas, he had 95 leads on his hot list. He worked every single one of them. There's 74 agents that worked 100% of their hot list last week. There were 75 agents across the country that worked 80 to 99% of every one of their hot leads on their list. And these aren't small numbers. We have people like Mickey Mark, 155 hot leads, worked 153 of them. There's some impressive numbers. Paul Dittmar, 61, worked 59. I'm pretty proud of those people. In my mind, that's 149 pretty darn committed agents. I'm going to go back to this. Our efforts don't wane after we accept the lead through the lead router. We've gotten really good at accepting leads and calling leads in the first 3 to 5 minutes. But it's everything else after that that really matters. Let me show you another report. These are the call attempts by some of our agents in 1 week. Last week, Scott Reed, who's sitting here next to me, made 629 call attempts through our system. That's a lot of calls. We had, 29 agents that averaged 20 to 90 calls per day over those 7 days. We had another 38 agents that averaged 10 to 20 calls per day over those 7 days. And you might ask, if you're a new agent or even some of the seasoned agents, where in the world did Scott Reed find 629 leads to call? Well, there's probably only 500 leads in there that he called, but he made a lot of attempts. Where do I find these leads? Well, they're right in the IMS 2.0. We have the hot list, we have your reminder list. Just like I want to reiterate, just working through the hot list is not where it ends. It's kind of where it begins. You have your reminder list. You have every lead that you've never spoken to all categorized into one group. And then maybe most importantly, you have those people that you spoke to in the past. You actually know that we have a number or they're a live, real person. You put them into a contacted status that we haven't spoken to in the last 30 days. A lot of people aren't going to show up on our hot list because they're out using Zillow or Trulia or Century 21 or Keller Williams or a number of other sites that they might be using now. But we had a decent conversation with them at one point. There's a bunch of leads to try. There's also the leads by status. When you open up the IMS down in the footer, a lot of your old leads from IMS 1.0 might still be hidden down there. We had one agent that we looked at the other day that They're doing a darn good job working through all the lists in IMS 2.0, but we knew they had a ton more leads in their database. Well, where are they? So we click on leads by status, and there's 820 that were put into a non-responsive status back with IMS 1.0. So there's a lot of places to prospect. There's agents out there finding people to call, and we're going to show you, whether it's working or not, whether that effort's worth it. And just like you, not you, but some people, I forgot about past clients. That's probably the real gold. That's where back to our, where do we want to be in 10 years? Why are we doing what we're doing? The past clients, that should be the easy money, when you start working referrals. A commitment to making more call attempts and contacts. There is right here's a report that we can run. I'm super proud of this report because what it shows is after an agent is taking a lead through the lead router, if they didn't make contact with that lead, how many times did they try to reach that lead subsequent to that initial call? So the lead router, the first call through the lead router doesn't count in these numbers. When we ran this report, when we first got IMS 2.0 up and running, the number was less than 1 for, I think, everyone in the company except maybe 1 or 2 people, which said basically, we're really good at taking leads through the lead router, but after we get that lead in our database, we kind of forget about it. And there was reasons we forgot about it, because it typically got buried inside of 300 or 400 or 500 or 1,000 or 2,000 other leads in our database. So last week we had actually this is January 1st through the 25th this year. We have 26 agents that are making 3+ additional call attempts to leads outside of the lead router. Benji, I'm not sure if you're on the call today, but congratulations, you are the head guy with 6 additional attempts to those not contacted leads. That's what I call commitment. Besides the agents on the left, we had 114 agents that accepted new leads between January 1st and January 25th. How many additional call attempts did those agents make? Yep, it's still less than 1. But like I said, I'm really proud of those people on the left-hand side, because we had nobody in that group 60 days ago. So we're getting better. I'm optimistic that everyone on this call, everyone can get this number way up. I reconcile it so I can go to sleep at night like I do my fantasy basketball team. We have some players with a whole lot of upside. An easy way to add 1 to your average attempts after the lead router. You take a lead through the lead router, you mark it as you didn't speak with that lead, or we don't see that you had at least a 2-minute conversation. You're going to get a text message 20 minutes later that says, hey, we tried this lead, but we didn't talk to him. Let's go ahead and try it again. That link inside of that text messages takes you right to the IMS and hopefully right to that call button. The theory behind this is, and I think some of you have heard this in my presentation when we did it in the market, but I don't know how many people answer their phone anymore, especially when they get a call from a lead that they don't, or from someone that they don't recognize the phone number. I rarely do. Hopefully all of you do answer your phone when you get a call, because your signs are in people's yards. That's part of your job, is to answer your phone. But if you're a client or a lead that isn't in the real estate business, the likelihood that they answer the phone when they see your number pop up is pretty small. Now, if they see your number pop up again within the next 15 to 20 minutes, the chances of them answering the phone skyrockets. I don't have any solid scientific evidence of this yet, but I will. I can tell you that when I get a call from the same number back to back, I'm more likely to answer it. You know, did my kids get in trouble at school? Someone get in an accident? Why is this person trying to track me down so hard? So that's how you could easily go from 1 attempt or 0 attempts outside of the lead router to 1. Or if you're already doing 2 or 3, from 3 to 4. It's a real simple tactic, I guess. Last week, here's some more numbers. Across the country, we made 14,570 calls through the system. We nearly made 5,000 contacts with leads. And we set 344 face-to-face meetings. Remember, this is in a week. If you do the math here, on average, it took about 3 call attempts to make a contact. And on average, it took 14 contacts to set 1 face-to-face meeting. Each of you will have different numbers that your manager can sit down and go through with you. We did have one question from, I believe it was Sam and Charlotte, asking if you guys will have access to the reports that we have access to. He gave me an idea for a report I thought was really good, and if I remember his email correctly, he said he feels like he's running a marathon that never ends, and that some reports like this would really help him. So look for those to be coming in the coming weeks. We had 117 agents set face-to-face meetings last week. We had 46 agents set 1 meeting. 36 agents set 2 to 3 meetings. And 35 agents set 4 or more meetings. Ryan Herget set 13. Benji set 11. Tyson made 240 call attempts and set 11 face-to-face meetings. And yes, Steve Bryan and I all went and asked them, were those legit? And I believe one person said, you know, out of my 11 meetings, 3 of those weren't really face-to-face. They're like call meetings or something else. But still, that's 8 meetings in a week. So what's the difference between these 46 agents, these 36 agents, and these 35 agents? Believe it or not, there's a strong correlation between your call attempts, your contacts, and your meeting set. The average call attempts for the people that set 1 meeting last week, they made 42 call attempts over a 7-day period. 36, they made 70 call attempts through the system, 10 a day basically. The agents that set 4 or more meetings, and these aren't just any meetings, these are face-to-face meetings, made 140 or 139 on average call attempts. It's about 20 a day. How many contacts did these people make? You know, you go from 16, you know, it's about 1 in 16 is the average for that week, to the end where you look at the group with 4 or more, and they had 48. They talked to 48 people versus 16. And obviously the face-to-face meeting set, people that set 1, set 2, those agents in the 4+ on average set 6 meetings, face-to-face meetings that week. We had 361 agents last week with 0 meetings set. And here are those numbers. 16 call attempts over 7 days. They talked to 5 people over 7 days. Obviously, they didn't set any appointments. Once again, I like to look at this from an optimistic point of view, and I consider those 3, we have a lot of upside here. I'm going to go ahead and reinforce what's probably obvious at this point. But if we look at those agents that set 4 or more meetings last week, it's 20 call attempts per day. You remember the first or second slide that I showed of the agent that made 13 call attempts in an hour? So we're looking at 1 to 2 hours based on that agent's numbers of basically analyzing leads, probably spending 4 or 5 minutes on each lead, analyzing it before making a call. We're talking 1 or 2 hours a day to prospect. That'll get you about 6 meetings per week. That's based on over 14,000 calls and 5,000 contacts last week, and I can expand those numbers to the last couple months and probably get the same thing. So here's the tip. Starting today, we need to start planning around setting time to prospect. We can't just prospect when we find a minute here or there. We have to set aside time. We need to set aside an hour a day. If it takes me an hour a day to make 13 calls, then I need to set aside an hour a day. If I want to be in this group that's setting 4 meetings a week, I need to set aside a couple hours a day, because 13 calls isn't going to cut it. I have 3 questions. I watched a TED Talks video about a month ago, and it really hit home with me. And I'm going to share, what I took from it. The first question I think you need to ask yourself is, can I do it? And inside of that question, there's going to be other questions like, do I have the time? Do I have the resources? Do I have the knowledge? Do I have the system, the IMS? Do I have the leads? Do I have the training? Do I have the support of my managers, my coworkers? Do I have an environment that will allow me to do this? Am I trying to make my 1 or 2 hours of calls a day to prospects with screaming kids in the background, with barking dogs, is there other things getting in the way of me reaching my goal or trying to accomplish what I need to accomplish? And lastly, am I willing to do it? I got a picture of a rope here. You guys can't see this, but I used it in Twin Cities presentation. I imagine this as you have a rope in both hands, and you're kind of playing tug of war. One hand is pulling it one way, saying, just make the call. The other hand is pulling it the other way, saying, now you don't need to make the call for one of a million different reasons. And pretty soon, after 3 or 4 minutes, you're just getting worn out. You're pulling back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. All you have to do is drop one end of that rope and just make the call. Do it over and over. Realize in your mind that you're doing this, that you're struggling with it. And pretty soon, after you drop that rope a couple hundred times, you're going to find it real easy to just make the calls. So can I do it? These agents are doing it. You remember the agents that we have 71 agents across the country that set 2 meetings last week. We have 29 agents that are averaging 20 plus calls per day. We have 149 agents across the country that are working 80% of their hot list. And we have 26 agents that are making 3 plus additional calls to reach a lead outside of the lead router. The next question is, do you believe it will work? What we're asking you to do, or the strategy and the tactics that we're asking you to think about, do you think it'll work? These agents think so. These ones, maybe not so much. But once again, there's upside. We have 114 agents that are scheduling meetings. I had to share a few of these slides with you. Steve, Brian, and I, your managers, from the time we rolled IMS 2.0, on a daily basis, we were either getting emails or texts or bumping into people in the hall sharing their stories about what they've uncovered with IMS 2.0 or how they're working with it. This agent, Scott Myers in Denver, is actually a new manager in Denver. I can confirm that the hot list leads are for real. I've set meetings and have written contracts. I am filling my pipeline. She sent me a text saying she didn't need my help. The last thing I wanted to do was call someone that I knew was not a big fan of me. Once again, this agent looks at the notes and sees that this agent basically is not a big fan of him. She didn't need any help, basically leave him alone. But he decided to call her anyway. She answered the phone. She was at the gym. She stepped outside of the gym, took his call, and come to find out she makes more money now and she can afford. She's pre-approved up to $220,000 prospect. Steven's gotta love the hot list. Justin in Las Vegas made 45 to 60 minutes of calls through the system via the hot list. Whoops. We'll be opening escrow on a $325,000 base price new home. I kind of screwed up this slide. There's literally tens of thousands of dollars in everyone's database. This manager thinks it'll work. This is like 3 weeks after we rolled this out in Las Vegas. Chip sends us this email. We had 53 verified face-to-face meetings set through the system. One agent made 500 calls in a week. This system acted as a catalyst for more. The hot list works. There were contracts signed last week because agents called their hot list. Too many wins to write. This system is going to be a game changer in every way. The hot list is to be trusted. These two agents think so. This is a text message that I got. Jaron just set another non-contacted lead appointment via text 5 minutes ago. I was actually in Las Vegas when this happened. A few days after we rolled it out, we had a call night. Gary Kirschbaum went into an office. I think it was his second lead on his hot list. He comes out all smiles. I just got an appointment with someone to show a $650,000 house off the hot list that I would have never called if it wasn't there. He ended up writing that deal. I think it's already closed, actually. Will it work? Brian Steven, I think so. In Indianapolis in December of 2015, we had 12 company lead sales, leads that we provided our agents that turned into business. That was in December of 2015. December of 2016, that number increased to 21 company lead sales. Our leads actually went down year over year in October and November from 15 to 16, so it wasn't anything to do with leads. That's a 91% increase. That was the best December that we've had in 13 years. We've only been in business 16, and back in the glory days, Steve, Brian, and I were actually out there selling. But anyway, the best December in 13 years, nearly doubled our business. In Las Vegas, 2015, we had 10 company lead sales. In 2016, we had 21. That's a 110% increase. That's the best December of all time in Las Vegas. Can it be attributed just to the hot list or the IMS 2.0? No. We have agents that are working their butts off. We have managers. We have support staff. All of this is just starting to gel. But the point is that we're up. We doubled our business in a couple markets year over year. Charlotte, Orlando, and Phoenix. To be fair, Indy and Vegas had this system about a month before everybody else did. December of Charlotte, Orlando, and Phoenix, I believe just got it in November, maybe early December. I think it was November, actually. But anyway, in December of 2015, we had 13 company sales. In December 2016, we had 25. Another 92% increase. So will it work? That's the second question. My last question to you, is it worth it? These 35 agents that set 4+ meetings, I think that they think it's worth it. I'm just going to run through some numbers here. Some personalities will get this, some won't, but they made 139 calls that week on average, those 35 agents. That's 20+ calls a day. They made 50. So if you can make 20+ calls a day, you should make over 50 contacts a week. That should get you somewhere close to 5, 6, 7 or more face-to-face meetings. That's a lot of meetings every year. And so I wanted to adjust these numbers for seasonality, for new agents, for just a myriad of different things. You know, when I asked the question, when we rolled this out in the markets, I asked people, if you get someone in your car, you have a face-to-face meeting with them, how often do you end up selling them a house? I think we ended up around 50% of the time in most markets. A lot of people were saying 70, 80%. So I want to discount this to 25%. You know, 1 out of every 4 do we actually get in our car and sell a house. That's 75 deals a year based on a couple hours a day, or close to $200,000 a year of income. I want to come back to, we have to plan around setting aside an hour or 2 a day to prospect. That's what it's going to take to get to these type of numbers. If we don't plan around it, you know, we won't do it. We'll start filling in our day when we have time with prospecting. But prospecting has to almost come first. You know, we have to, whether it's an hour in the morning and an hour at night, or a half hour in the morning and a half hour at night, or an hour in the afternoon, whatever it is, we have to start planning around it. And I truly believe that these numbers are doable. So some of you may say, well, it's not about the money. Well, we need to figure out the reason you do what you do. Is your goal to build a sustainable business? You want your name on top of the sales report? You want to be recognized as a leader amongst your peers? You want to make yourself proud? Or make your family proud of you? Maybe you want to set an example for your kids. Or maybe it's none of these. And if it isn't any of these, then I think we need to figure out, you know, the reason that you're doing what you do. And when you do figure that out, ask the question again: is it worth it? So what I'd like you to do right now, if you have a pen and paper, is to answer these questions with just a yes, no, or question mark. Nobody else is going to see your answers. It's for you. You don't have to submit them to your manager or send them in to us. But if you have anything besides a yes to these questions, I would encourage you to reach out to your manager, reach out to someone that you can count on for support, and figure out, you know, why I didn't answer yes. And maybe we can help you, you know, reach that goal of not having to walk to your mailbox, you know, to look for that check every month. We went through a lot of different topics here in this presentation, but if there's 2 things that I want you to remember, or it would make me happy if you only got 2 things out of this entire presentation. First of all, you have to set aside time to prospect every day. And when you're in doubt about a lead, whether you should call it or not, just click the call button. Would your answers be the same after those 2 points? For those of you that are already doing the above, I hope you found something that you can rest your hat on. So, one of my favorite of all-time characters of all time. But so that's all I have. Now, probably the real reason that you're here. I have Scott Reed, who has been an agent not only in Indianapolis for many years, but also in Las Vegas. He was a top producer in Las Vegas when he was in Las Vegas. He worked for, you know, he sold new homes by the hundreds back in the glory days. And he's got a lot of experience. And why I asked Scott to join us is he made over 600 phone calls last week. And he said, I think his numbers in our system show 6 appointments face-to-face, but he actually, in reality, says he set 9. That's a pretty darn good week. So, Scott, if you guys have questions for Scott, what I'd like you to do is just type them in, and we'll ask them. And, you know, any questions open for Scott, you know, how he did it, you know, what motivates him, anything, just fire away. But if you don't have any questions, I've got a few of my own. So, Scott, I'm going to go ahead and ask you the first question while I look through the questions from the group. So what motivated and inspired you? Or what motivates and inspires you?
For me, it's I want to do this well. And I'd actually hit a point where I wasn't doing as well as I wanted, and I sat down with one of our managers, it was Steve Robbins here, and we looked at what my calls looked like as far as throughout my database, how many times I was calling leads, when I was calling them, and while I felt I was working really hard and doing everything I could, I found that I wasn't really doing that much. So I kind of refocused what I was trying to do, and it hinged around calls and texts and trying to get in front of more people.
That makes sense. Um, we do have a question from Amy Richmond. Uh, do you do you have set things you talk to your prospects about? How do you begin the conversation with prospects?
I don't have set things. I stopped reading the notes before I hit dial, and I'm calling everyone just to start a conversation and see where it goes. Ultimately, my goal with every call is to set an appointment. If I can't set an appointment, schedule a follow-up task, but it in general is a conversation to, I need them to be comfortable with me.
Awesome. My second question is, what's your average day look like? Right now, let's say, what's your average day look like?
Uh, Now I've changed it. From 8 to 10 in the morning, I make phone calls. From 10 to 2, I do some of the research, try to figure out what homes I'm showing people from those calls or calls from days before. And I've been making phone calls from 5 to about 8:30 at night.
Awesome. I got one question here that I'm going to go ahead and answer. She asks, are these top agents the brokers in the markets, or are they agents? Every single one of these people that I showed on those lists are agents. Um, I can't remember the last time I sold a house, or Steve or Brian or Chip or Brett, or most of the, we do have some brokers in some markets that are selling, but these people are agents. So back to Scott. If you could choose one, a phone, making a call attempt, sending a text, or sending an email, what would you choose?
Call.
Why?
Because I get to talk to them. I get to hear the emotion. I can get a lot more out of a phone call from not what they're saying, but what their reactions are than I can from a text response or an email, which usually doesn't contain a lot of emotion or the hidden messages.
Do you ever find yourself struggling to make a call, or was there ever a period in your career where you didn't like to talk to people or make calls, or
It wasn't that I didn't like to talk to them, but prior to me getting with Steve and looking at the numbers of how many attempts and whatnot, I found myself thinking I knew what that lead was going to do. And if I knew what they were going to do, why call them? When I cleared my head and just said hit the dial button, I started getting a lot better result.
and hopefully everybody heard that. Um, I mean, I really like to key in on that. What Scott said is when I cleared my head and just hit the call button, things started to happen. That's kind of what we've been talking about when we've been training on 2.0 is, you can't get lost in the data. You just have to click the call button. It's, you never know. You can't really prepare for what's going to come out of the person's mouth. Um, I think there's one thing that we all hear. It's that I'm just looking. That's probably the biggest objection or the most popular objection that every one of our agents hears across the country through the lead router is, I'm just looking right now. How do you handle that, Scott?
I ask another question. It doesn't matter necessarily what the question is. I just want to know something more. It can be. I tell a lot of people it's fun to look. What are you looking for?
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes I'll just switch gears and what made you start looking.
Right.
Uh, the second and third question beyond I'm just looking or even I'm working with an agent. I'm getting a lot of information, and what I'm really doing is building rapport. I'm
Right.
asking the questions that other people may not have asked and getting a little deeper penetration with them personally.
Scott's building value there. He's building rapport. He's keeping people on the phone by just continually asking questions and listening. And I think that's pretty important. A lot of times I think we hear that I'm just looking, and we take the immediate exit to let me set you up on Gateway. I'll send you some properties and give me a call back, if you see anything you like. Or I'll call you back maybe in 30, 60, or 180 days. If you show up if I take the time to schedule a reminder. But a lot of times we're just waiting for them to call us or to contact us. And it's real easy to get out of that. I'm just looking with, hey, I'm going to send you some properties, periodically. Just let me know if you see something you like. And that slide, I think it was about 4 or 5 deep, where we showed 6 or 7 of those I already bought emails. That's typically probably what's happening. We're sending them the gateways, we're sending them the properties. They find the property through our gateway that they like. They don't call us. They go out and call the number on the sign or just for some other reason. So I think that's excellent.
Can I interject one more thing?
Sure.
I got a lot out of calling every number. I'm sure everybody else knows this, and maybe I was the idiot, but when I would call somebody and I would hit the left voicemail button, I would see 1 or 2 more numbers. I always thought I'm calling the best number because that's the one at the top. When I was calling leads that were 6 months to 2 years old, those people had 10, 12, 14 different numbers. And I found myself calling every one of those, and it didn't improve my contact rate, but I eliminated 75 or 80% of bad numbers, which meant when I was making calls, I knew I was calling the right number and not 7 or 8 numbers that may or may not be them.
That's a great point. Something I often don't think about. That investment of time of working through those 14 numbers that are bad to find that one that for the next 5 or 10 days that you're going to try and call, it works.
Yep.
So that's a great point. What surprised you most about the hot list?
The results that I was getting from it. I'd been an agent for a while, so I have a database that goes back several years. And I had people showing up on my hot list that had been here 2, 3, or 4 years ago. And one reason or another, they didn't buy then. Some of them will admit they bought from someone else, but they're coming back and they're looking to move up now, and they're still coming back to our website. The hot list was valid for me, and my contact rates off the hot list are higher than just out of the standard database. I was able to do more things and more efficient.
I have a question from Evan Castillo. Does Scott have an assistant or use a transaction coordinator?
I do not. I do it all myself.
Scott's pretty busy, but he's working, I think, towards, maybe that last option that we showed in the second slide. We have to build up that client, those past clients, so that, we're not spending, 2 hours a day on the phone calling internet leads. We're spending a half hour talking to our referrals. We're hiring transaction coordinators. We're hiring showing agents. But Scott's making the investment right now, to get to that point. Let's see here. What does your time blocking schedule look like? What days do you schedule to work and schedule off? When do you take time off? And another question that kind of fits into this is, are you finding better results at different times of day in your calls?
The second one I'll answer first, and not really. I think I get a higher text response from some people in the morning because every call that I make, I'm sending a text with it also. I just cut and paste. It's Scott with Highgarden Real Estate. Want to check in, see if any new questions popped up. But I get responses at all times it is. So from that 8 to 10 time period that I'm calling in, and from 5 to 9, I would say it's about equal.
Awesome. Here's another question, and I'm gonna answer this, and Scott, correct me if I'm wrong. How many on average does Scott have on his hot list per day? And how many does he have and is not contacted in 30 days on average? First of all, I can say for his hot list, if you remember, if you watch the slides again, you might wake up the first time and look at your hot list and have 100 people on it. But once you work through those people, that list goes down to, what, 5, 10, maybe 20 a day?
I had 2 today.
Scott had 2 today. And the reason for that is Scott worked 660, he made 660 calls last week a lot of those leads aren't showing up on his hot list because he's already worked them. And I guarantee you they're probably in Scott's reminder list to work, and that's how he actually got to 600 and some calls in a week, because he's not just focused on the hot list, he's focused on all the lists. As far as how many not contacted leads, I don't know. We'd have to look that up in Scott's for Scott, but I'm sure he's got a ton. I mean, because every lead, they're hard to contact.
I'm somewhere around 65 right now, 60 to 65, and trying to chip away at those every day.
That's pretty good. Scott said he had 60 to 65 not contacted leads on his not contacted list. I know there are agents out there that have hundreds, so congratulations, Scott, on working through that stuff. I'm looking through some of the other questions that we have to see if anything. They got a congrats, Scott. Let's see here. Do you leave a voice message, or do you keep calling until you reach them?
I leave a voice message on the reminder call because, and I may be the slow person in the group, but I was calling leads as soon as it came in, so hitting that less than 5-minute window. I knew an email was going out and a text message, and then I kept getting this pesky reminder for an activity that I thought I set for 6 hours away.
The 20-minute reminder?
Yes.
Yeah.
I started calling off of that, and I do leave a voicemail with that message. But about 6 out of 10 calls, people are answering that second call.
So they didn't answer the initial call through the lead router, but you called them back 20 minutes later, and you got about 60%.
Yep.
That's where I cannot wait till we get the data on that, so that we have some really big numbers, because I truly believe that's going to be the case in a lot of instances. What do you know now as it relates to IMS 2.0 that you didn't know a month ago, or 2 months when you first started?
That if I'm actually using the system, making the calls that the system's generating for me every day, I'm setting more appointments. In November, December, I might have averaged 2 or 3 appointments a month, and so far in January, I'm actually at 17 now.
That's pretty awesome. Okay. Great. I would like to know if he utilizes how he likes, for example. Okay, this agent's asking, it's more on the time blocking. I would like to know how he utilizes his time. For example, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. is email responses. 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. is for morning calls. Then we go to lunch from 12 to noon. 1 to 3, I research properties and set up searches, paperwork, etc. And 3 to 7, calling leads. Scott, do you have a schedule like that? Or, I mean, how do you...
I'm not returning emails from 8 to 10. I'm making calls.
Right.
I'm responding to emails, doing research, and preparing for appointments from 10 to about 2. I try to do appointments between 2 and 5, 2 and 6. If I don't have appointments, I'm doing calls from 5 to 8:30.
That makes sense. I want to come back to this agent's question, and I think that this is where the point of the presentation, what we were talking about, and Scott may not be there yet, or a lot of agents may not be there yet, but I really think we have to plan around the prospecting time. Because if we start setting schedules like 8 to 10, I'm going to send an email. 10 to 12, I'm going to make calls. Then I'm going to go to lunch, and from 12 to 1 or 1 to 3, I'm going to do research. Pretty soon, something's going to come up. You're going to get that call the night before that says, hey, I want to go see a property tomorrow at 10 a.m. Or who knows what else can pop up that's going to throw a complete wrench into that whole day, unless we start blocking out time for prospecting. We don't do anything else between these hours but prospect. I know that it's probably a pipe dream of mine that everybody could do that, but I really think you should think about it, because it's that important. It's not only important to get your sales next week or next month, but forever. When you're not calling internet leads and you're calling your past clients, you have to do that. We have to find time to do it. So All right, last question, Scott. What's one piece of advice you would give to everyone if they want to increase their sales next month or the coming year?
Stop reading the notes and call.
Stop reading the notes and call. That sounds like a good one to end it on. Well, Scott, thank you very much for everything, and we appreciate your time coming in here today. Hopefully, everyone got something out of this hour. Looks like we're right at an hour. So, once again, thanks everyone for joining us, and please feel free to email me, Steve, or Brian, or your manager, or support. I think Scott Reed would. His email address is swreed@highgarden.com. I think if you have any specific questions about what Scott's doing, I think he would love to help you. But anyway, anything else?
That's it. Thanks.
All right. I hope everybody has a great weekend. We'll talk to you later.